Welcome back to the Own It Show. We are here to help uncommon knowledge become common. And today on the show, we have incredible special guest, Melissa Entzminger, who is an award-winning communication consultant. And today we're talking all about how to build confidence as a speaker and grow your business. So thank you so much for being on the show, Melissa, and welcome back. We're so glad to have you back in season 5. And so tell us more about you and what you do, who you help, and how you help them.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It is just wonderful to be here. I am a unique speech coach in that I did not start out liking to give speeches. In fact, the thought of giving speeches terrified me and made me want to be sick. Perhaps that is how some of the people in your audience are feeling. Way back when I was in high school, a few more years than I like to admit. I thought I wanted to be an attorney, and a family friend who was an attorney at the time said, if you want to be a good attorney, you should really be good at giving speeches. And so that made a lot of sense. And so I joined a competitive speech and debate program and gave my first speech, and it was awful. There were more ums and uhs than actual words, and my face was flushed and my palms were sweaty, and it was terrible. But I was committed to being a good attorney, and so I stuck with it. And along the way, I worked with my coaches and I learned how to develop that confidence, how to give good speeches, what things you need to have a good speech, and practiced. And I gave a lot of speeches. And along the way, I can remember practicing and my mom yelling up the stairs, it's time to come down for dinner. And I'd say, just 5 more minutes, Mom. And as I continued to practice, I eventually started winning tournaments, and then I'd win at the state level and eventually at the national level, and never did become an attorney. In fact, I fell in love with giving speeches and the ability to motivate your audience and to help shift some of that thinking. Got my bachelor's and master's in communication and taught at the collegiate level. And along the way was helping people in the community that I met with their speaking skills, and eventually decided to make that my full-time job, where I got to help people step into their power and accomplish their dreams, overcome their nerves and their confidence, and help them share their message and unlock that confidence that they didn't realize that they had. And it's such an rewarding experience to help people share the message that is on their heart. And so now I help people one-on-one, and I help leaders with their teams and develop those skills to help them develop their speaking skills. So
I love that. And do you work with clients one-on-one and in group, or how do people work with you?
yes, I work with both one-on-one and in a group setting as well. And I've also written a digital course if people would like to do the more self-paced approach to help learn the best practices of being able to write a speech that ultimately helps motivate audiences and helps them feel empowered to accomplish their goals.
I love it. Having a captivating speech to captivate your audience is so incredible. So that's amazing. And you give us a little bit of an introduction of your journey and how you started as an entrepreneur. And tell us, how's it going so we can inspire other people to get on the journey, stay on the journey, and thrive. So, what would you say you've learned a little bit along that entrepreneur journey?
Well, so far I've learned that it is all about helping people to accomplish their dreams and figuring out the words have power, and that the words that you think your audience needs to hear is not necessarily the word choice that they use. And so when I first started along the journey, I had started working with a coach, and they said, well, the word choice that you should use is stage fright. That your audience, when they get up to speak, they have stage fright. And I heard crickets because my audience doesn't use stage fright. I don't really know anyone who uses the word stage fright, but nerves and lack of confidence, those are words that people use when it comes to thinking about giving speeches. And so there's a lot of research that it's necessary to do when you are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and being a successful entrepreneur of your target audience, and making sure that the words that you are using are words that are resonating with them. Because if you're not using the right words on the right day, then your message won't ever land.
I love that. That's so important. Getting into your clients or ideal clients' operating reality and getting into their world so that you are speaking the language that they're speaking. And that's exactly how we titled this episode today. We use search engine optimization tools just to see what is it that your ideal client, Melissa, is actually searching. And what it was is how to build confidence as a speaker, so that we can own it and grow our business with our signature talks and things like podcasts and guest speaking and really building that influence through your speaking and building that brand awareness is so important. So I love that, guys. Great tip on your entrepreneur journey. Before you start marketing, make sure you're in the operating reality and in the world of that ideal client and speaking their language. Beautiful, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. So she's got some great tips for you guys today so that you can build your confidence as a speaker. Get up there, share your message, leave your impact, and help you grow your business. So, tip number one is you are not born with confidence, which means anyone can develop it. So, tell us, how do we develop it? Tell us more about that.
Well, I used to believe that confidence was something that you are born with. I mean, if you look at any confident leader, they look so natural in their confidence. They look like they just rolled out of bed and there's just ooze confidence. And so it must just be, maybe it's natural, maybe it's Maybelline, right? They must just have it. And so, but that's really not the case. And so the great news is that it was developed, which means we can develop it. And so the question is, how do we develop it? Well, the good news is that it means that we can start taking action before we feel completely confident, but we start by taking small steps. You don't climb Mount Everest by taking one giant leap. You take small steps by small steps. And so I remember specifically, I worked with a client and she was a powerhouse in business. She was a very successful marketer in her marketing agency, and she had built it from the ground up. And she wanted to start giving speeches, and giving speeches is a great way to help build your credibility as a business owner. And while she knew that this was going to be advantageous for her business, the thought of stepping on stage terrified her because she felt like when she steps on stage, she freezes.
Mm.
And this is a common problem for, frankly, a lot of people. And so, her mind goes blank, her voice freezes, and she just kind of wanted to disappear. And so the thing is, I said, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Confidence isn't something that you have, it's something that you build. And so we're going to build this step by step. And so we started with something that she was already good at, one-on-one conversations. However, I challenged her to start treating those small meetings as mini presentations. So, reframing how she thought about those one on one conversations as presentations. So, speaking with more clarity and using confident body language, practicing her strong delivery. So, thinking about making sure that she had clear presentation structure and leading her team with good eye contact. And it was a low pressure setting, but by reframing that thought process and by changing those thoughts, it helped take that first step. And so next we started adding by taking another step. And so she was initially thinking, okay, so when I go up to give these presentations, all eyes are on me. And that's initially what a lot of people think. But I challenged that thought by saying, you're not necessarily here to have all eyes on you. You're not here to impress people. You're here to help people.
Mm.
And by shifting that mindset, you're no longer worrying about what people are thinking about you. You are here to help people and you're here to give insights. And you know that you are a subject matter expert. And so, whether you're giving an investor pitch or you're at a conference table talking to your team or talking to a potential client, you're here to serve and not to prove yourself.
Mm.
That small shift is foundational and huge. And so that's the next step. And so then the step after that is to record yourself so that whether that's on a Zoom call or whether that's giving a practice presentation and then watching that back and seeing what that looks like. And then making adjustments. So maybe you don't realize how many hand gestures you're giving or
That
how
used to be
many.
me, talking hands.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And maybe you think that you're speaking really loud, but you're actually speaking really soft and or the opposite, or you think you're speaking really loud, but you're actually shouting and the audience feels like they need to go stick their nose in the corner because it feels like you're scolding them. And so all of these things, the way that we see ourselves might not be the way that we're actually presenting ourselves. And so video is a great way to take the next step to help us see how the audience sees ourselves. And so making these small tweaks is a great way to take the next step. And so the step after that is working on how our physicality is presenting. So sitting there with our shoulders back, yes, making hand gestures when you want to emphasize certain words, making eye contact with the audience, slowing your pace of speaking down. A great tip, if you find yourself tripping over your words, it means you're speaking too quickly. So if that happens, just pause, take a deep breath, and start again. And so, as we worked over through these things, she eventually then went on to give her keynote speech. But we started by taking all these baby steps, and she went from dreading giving her speeches to feeling confident and excited about giving her speech.
I love that. And guys, going back, a lot of people are like, I don't want to hear my own voice. You want to get comfortable watching your own stuff. I've been doing it for as long as I've been speaking. And Michael Jordan was the best player in the NBA. And he was known that after every game, he would watch the replay of the game to see how he would improve. And so I've been doing that as a speaker for so long. And one of the things that I found in the beginning was how I was orchestrating with my hands while I talked. And the other thing is when I thought I was pausing, which felt like an eternity to me of not speaking, intentionally pausing between words, it was literally like half a breath. And so I realized that having a pause longer than a millisecond is important so people can also hear what you said, digest it in their mind, have their own thoughts, and then continually follow along. And so there's so much magic. And they say, you can watch it, so see your mannerism, then you can listen for those filler words, and you can even transcribe it and look at the language that you use. So really looking at all those aspects, right? Like that physical, um, and how you're presenting yourself. So really, really great opportunity. I think that's one of the best things that has helped me continuously. And then I do want to say I am quite confident, and the nerves still kick in every single time. So you just get more comfortable being uncomfortable and building that confidence, right?
Yeah, well, with those nerves, those are great tips that you gave. And you do need to fall in love with the sound of your own voice. Like how it sounds to you in your own head is not how it sounds to other people. But that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with how it sounds to other people, and just know that it's going to sound different, but that's how you sound, and that's a beautiful thing. And so if you just prepare yourself for that, then and get comfortable with it and know that it's part of the growing opportunity, then that's one way to overcome that. But regarding your comment about nerves, one way to consider not having the nerves get in the way is to reframe that. And so instead of approaching a situation with saying, "Oh, I'm so nervous, I don't know if I can do this," is to relabel them. And so your body doesn't know what those feelings are called until you give it a label. And so instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so nervous," say, "You know what? I'm excited. I'm excited for this opportunity." And all of a sudden now you're excited for the opportunity instead of letting those nerves get in the way and then all the jitters and the things that go with nerves. Now you're excited to share your message.
Absolutely. I always love being able to switch our perception. And then you said something earlier where it's about serving, not what people think about you. And so I think those nerves will also start to go away and truly turn into excitement when we don't make it about us and instead make it about the service that we're providing and the lives that you're going to change, because you never know the impact you can have. And that's why you really want to get out there and share that message with people for the energy of service, for the impacts that you can have. So let's dive into tip number 2, practical ways people can boost their confidence in everyday life so that we can make ourselves excited about it.
Yes, I have this friend named Lisa, and she used to be so envious of confident people, the kind that you see that just effortlessly walk into a room and they just seem like they own it. And is the type of person who just second guessed herself, and she seemed like she was just nervous in meetings. She would kind of avoid eye contact. And over coffee one day, she was confiding in me about it. And I suggested we just do this little experiment in that instead of waiting until she felt confident, she acted as if she was already confident. So on day one, our experiment was that she would do a power pose in the morning. Now, this is something that I learned about exactly from Amy Cuddy. She has a TED Talk about it. And
Good
so you
TikTok.
do a superwoman pose. You put your hands behind your back and you throw your chest out and pretend like your cape is billowing in the wind behind you for 2 minutes. And so it lowers your stress, your cortisol, and it raises your testosterone. It helps you feel calmer and like you can take on the world. And so then the next day, her assignment was to speak up in meetings, just prepare one point in advance. And when the moment came, she took a deep breath and she spoke up. And nobody laughed. In fact, people nodded in agreement. Did it feel uncomfortable, kind of like brushing your teeth with the wrong hand? Absolutely. But did she feel empowered and like she could do it? Yeah. Afterwards, she was like, okay, this really wasn't so bad. So the next day was we're going to dress for confidence. So, you always feel a little off when you're dressing in kind of sloppy clothes. And so she was going to put a little bit more effort in how she dressed. And so it wasn't anything over the top. She wasn't dressed in a cocktail dress, but she put a little bit more effort into how she was dressed, and that made her feel good and ready to go. And so the next day, we did the same thing we talked about here just a minute ago. She tried the turning your nerves into excitement. And so she introduced herself at a networking event, and those nerves kicked in, and, all these beady little eyes are going to be staring at me. And so instead of saying, "I'm so nervous and I don't know that I can do this," she whispered herself, "I'm excited to meet these people." And the shift was subtle, but it was powerful. And so instead of dreading it, she leaned in, she made eye contact, and she even cracked a joke.
I
It
love
was
it.
wonderful. And then on the last day, she made a past win list. And
Mm.
so she realized that she was more capable of things than she thought she was. And she started keeping a small notebook of things that when she stepped out of her comfort zone, she had won. And so before big moments, She read through this list and realized that there were things that she could do even when she didn't feel like she was ready to do. And so when you start to take those actions even before you're ready, and even if they don't feel like they're necessarily big to the outside world, they prove to yourself that you can do it. And that makes all the difference.
I love having a wins journal and continuously celebrating our wins. So I highly, highly recommend that. We overlook so many wins, and no winner is big or small except for what you make it. And so I bet you, if you actually pause to take a peek at your wins, even so far this year, there's more than you think. So I love that exercise and so many great ways to be able to do it on every day basis instead of just being like, all of a sudden I'm going to public speak and I'm so confident. It's actually building it up. Practice. Practice makes permanent, which I love.
Hmm. Yes.
Amazing. All right, tip number 3. So, reframing the situation to focus on what you can control and owning your confidence regardless of the situation or setbacks. So, how do people manage their confidence when things are happening outside of their control or they've had rejection or things like that?
So remember that we're not always confident all the time. That's an ebb and a flow. And so when you're not feeling 100% confident, you want to reframe the situation and you want to focus on what you can control. And so our brain often magnifies the negatives, right? So if you think about maybe you've posted something on social media and you've gotten 100 positive comments and there's that one negative comment, and we tend to focus on that negative comment. So instead of thinking I'm not good enough or I can't do it, let's reframe that and think about what can I learn from this, or what's one small step that I can take right now, or have I handled something like this before, and what did I do that worked effectively. So I had a client, her name was Sarah, and she felt like she was a failure because she stumbled during this big sales pitch. And instead of spiraling, she reframed it. She said, you know what, this wasn't my best, but I know what I'm going to improve for next time. And so by thinking about it that way, it's not always our first instinct. Our first instinct is to feel bad about it.
Mhm.
But by focusing on what we can control, that takes back our control and helps build our confidence. And so that is ultimately something that's going to help us be successful. Also, remember to focus on what you've done well in the past and your past wins. Remember your win journal and how successful you were at that.
Yeah.
And also that body confidence, right? Standing tall, breathing, moving with purpose, and taking action anyway. So make that one call. And remember that confidence follows courage, not the other way around. And lean into your support system. Call maybe your coach or your friend. Sometimes you just need someone to remind you of your strength. And that is something that's ultimately going to help you. Confidence is something that's a skill, it's not a fixed trait. And so every time that you push through that doubt, you strengthen that skill of confidence, just like a muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get the opportunity to find the lesson, we like to call it lesson and blessing. So the lesson and blessing in every opportunity and experience, instead of going right into the make wrong, right? Like you said, our first thing is often to feel bad about it. So we make ourselves feel bad or wrong or not good enough. And instead, as Napoleon Hill would say, no matter what was happening, even if the building was burning down, that's good. And so we always all successful people, they are always winning because they always find a lesson, something to learn from an experience or something to be grateful for from the experience. And so that's what we call the lesson or blessing. And reframing, right? Switching from here's the contrast. So here's what happened, here's what I would prefer. And then always coming back to our wins and celebrating our wins along the way to remind us that um, it was a one-off and it's not who we are. There's so much more available to the world that we can share. So I love that. Reframing to get yourself out of any negative situation is always, always a great way to keep propelling yourself forward. And all successful people do it. So I love that. Thank you. All right, let's dive into tip number 4, last but not least. And it's dear to my heart because I live to create custom visualizations for people because I know the magic in them. So tell us the power behind visualizing to build your confidence.
So, visualizing is incredibly important because your mind does not know the difference between you visualizing something and you actually going through something. In fact, visualizing tricks your brain into thinking you've actually done something. And so, this is so powerful that famous athletes do it. Like Michael
Mhm.
Jordan did it, Michael Phelps, the famous swimmer, did it. The rest of us can do it, even if our name isn't Michael. But so let's say you have a famous speech coming up, or a speech in general. It doesn't have to be famous. And so what you do is you picture yourself walking up to the front of the room. You picture yourself going through your first lines in detail. You picture yourself going through the rest of your speech in as much detail as possible. You picture the applause at the end, and you picture yourself sitting back down, and everybody knows the second time you've done something is so much easier than the first. And so you can do this visualization as many times as you want leading up to the speech. You can do it, as you're falling asleep in bed at night. You can do it, you know, each day leading up to the event. And it helps you feel more confident as you go to give your presentation, and helps with those nerves and the anxiety, and ultimately just helps you give a better presentation and helps you feel more confident.
Yes, and I love that you brought up the athlete example because what they call is mental rehearsal, right?
Mm.
Before they actually go to the game or to the starting line, they have mentally rehearsed winning and doing it perfectly over and over again. And statistics show that when you have your mental rehearsal versus your physical practice versus someone who does mental rehearsal and physical practice, the person who does that actually gets the higher mark. And some people, even in who just visualize, who did the mental rehearsal, even got better than the people who did the physical, because practice makes permanent. So when we practice something wrong, we make that permanently wrong. And yet, if we visualize it perfectly, we're actually strengthening those neurons. The brain knows no difference between real and imagined, and the same neurons will fire when you think about shooting a basketball as when you actually shoot a basketball. So there is so much neuroscience behind visualization. And then one of the secrets to it is as you visualize, you have to believe it to be real and believe in yourself. So really feeling that confidence, feeling the energy and stepping into it. And I'm taking myself back probably a decade when I knew I wanted to do more public speaking. I knew there was a show in the future. I knew I wanted to do a TED Talk, be an author, all those things. And I just made a new vision board and new whiteboards, and I got dressed up in a pencil skirt at that time, which I think is funny because I don't know if I would wear that now, but this like dress suit. And I would rehearse in front of my mirror. So not only did I do it mentally, I would do it physically so that the next time I would go and present, it was like second nature because I'd already literally physically and mentally done it in practice. And there's so much magic in visualizing and just, dressing up and acting as if and doing the presentation for yourself. So if you want to truly, truly own it when you get on stage, that mental rehearsal and visualization is one of the simplest ways to help you get there.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree.
I love it. So before we dive into your free gift for everyone, is there anything else that you wanted to add today for everyone?
I think that if we're completely honest with ourselves, that most of us have something that's been tickling at the back of our brain that we want to share, or a message that we want to get out in the world, but we keep giving ourselves answers or reasons why I can't do it now because of this, I can't do it now because of that. But if we're really honest with ourselves, it's probably fear that's holding us
Mhm.
back. And if you act on these strategies that I've given today, that you are going to be well on your way in stepping into your power and embracing that confidence to get that message out into the world. At the end of the day, life is short and we were all put on this planet to help each other out. And by you not stepping into your power and sharing that message, then you aren't stepping into your purpose to help out whoever was meant to share that message. And my hope for you today is that you do just that, is you overcome that fear and you share that message. And I can't wait to hear how amazing it is.
I love it. So share your message, share your gifts, transform the world, leave positive impact, and leave that legacy by owning your speaking with confidence. So amazing. So tell us about your free gift and why everyone needs it now.
Yes, I've created a free gift for all of you, which has more actionable strategies that we didn't get a chance to talk about on how to step into your confidence that you can use to act confidently, whether you are giving a presentation or doing a video or anything new that you might be a little bit nervous. These strategies are going to help you not be quite as nervous and be more confident. And so I'm excited for you to implement them today.
I love it. So, guys, that link's below. Go ahead and grab that right now. The benefits of building your confidence so you can share your message is not only to increase that impact, you can increase your influence and your income. So, help you grow your business with your signature talks. And Melissa can help you do that. So, thank you so much for being on the show today. And we like to wrap it up with your favorite book recommendation and why. So, tell us.
So, right now, my favorite book recommendation is Let Them by Mel Robbins. And in this book, she talks all about controlling what you can control and let them for what you can't control. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It is very freeing, and the other part of it is let them for what you can't control and then let me for how you respond to what you can control. And so I highly recommend it.
Sounds like a book that helps you take your power back.
It does.
I love it. Oh, there. Nice plug for Miss Mel Robbins. We love you. You're incredible. The 5 second rule was so good. Still use it to this day, which, if you don't know, was one of her first books. And it is when you are thinking, can I do it? Can I not do it? You actually, oh, yes, she was at the Arbonne conference because she even showed the brain scans of how the blood is in your limbic system. So fight or flight, and then when you count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go and do the action, it actually moves to the prefrontal cortex. And super, super interesting that counting from 1 to 5 does not work. You have to count backwards because you have to think about it a little bit more, where you can unconsciously all count to 5, I think, I hope, at this point, right? So yeah, that book was so good, the 5 second rule. So you guys can implement that to help you get out there to share your talks. And then check out the Let Them by Mel Robbins. And she's heading out for her book tour soon for that. So love that you brought that up today. Thank you so much, Melissa. Incredible episode. Thank you for coming back again. Before you help people really create and own their signature talks and start building their stories and sharing through stories in their talks. And today was all about confidence, because I think that's the number one thing. You can have the best talk in the world, but if you cannot deliver it with confidence, it will not be received the same way. So you're going to grab that freebie today from Melissa, and she's going to have more like a code for you guys so you can grab that incredible digital product. And of course, if you would like a little bit more hand holding, you can work with her one-on-one or in her group program. So we'll drop all her links below. And again, thank you so much, Melissa, for being on the show. Incredible episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. So, thank you guys for tuning in. And remember, stay happy, healthy, wealthy, expect magic and miracles. And what is the best that can happen? We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.